Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast. Welcome back to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast. This is June 3rd, episode 106. Matt Roy, Don Harris, Chuck McGinnick, back and better than ever. Gentlemen, how are we today?
Great, fantastic. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. We got some sad news on this Monday. We got some happy news on this Monday. We're going to talk about it all. Remember to download, rate, review, subscribe to the Sneakers and Cleats podcast on YouTube and on wherever you get your podcasts, on any podcast app, as I like to say. We have Justin Jefferson becoming the highest paid non-quarterback in football. How much that's going to cost the Cowboys now? You guys can just hand it right in. Yeah. We got the most allergic person in the world sitting next to me, so he needs his Kleenex whenever we are here.
Yep. Got an issue?
Need a tissue.
Get a tissue.
So we'll talk about how Justin Jefferson's contract is going to really hurt, possibly, the Cowboys and how long they've waited to pay Ceedee Lamb. If you need to blow your nose, I can turn your mic down. We'll also talk about Cowboys mandatory mini camps. We'll talk about the NBA draft coming up.
Windshield over here.
We're a mess. Talk about the NBA draft coming up, what prospects the Spurs might get. Plus, we will remember the life of Larry Allen, who just a few hours ago was announced was dead at 52. Ironically, Tyler Smith was asked about him on Thursday, so he pointed me in that direction, had a few nice words to say about Larry Allen. So we'll remember that life as well. But first, as we always do, we want to start with our number game, number 106. So we'll start number 6. I mean, I don't think there's another one that can come to mind besides Bill Russell.
Oh, Sal Bando. You've totally left him off the list.
I did leave Sal Bando off the list.
I love the fact that you brought up Sal Bando.
Who doesn't love Salvatore Bando?
When I was putting the list together, I thought of just stopping after I put Bill Russell. Like, I didn't want to put actually any other players on the list. I just wanted to leave Bill Russell by himself. But, I had to put some other ones on there. Bill Russell is number 6. Like, he's the best number 6.
No.
Yes, he is.
No.
Who?
LeBron.
LeBron didn't always wear 6 though.
Okay.
That's the thing. Like, he's 23 and 6, but you don't think of him when you think of 23. Obviously, that's synonymous with Michael Jordan. Do you think of LeBron as 23 more or 6?
6.
Really?
He wore that against the Spurs in those great finals.
He was 6 when he went to the Heat, but he was 23 for his first Cleveland run.
Yeah.
6 is such a non-feng shui basketball number, isn't it?
When
you get right down to
Dr.
it.
Tell that to Julius Irving.
My man, Avery.
I have him on the list too. I didn't realize how much of a journeyman Avery was. Like, I was just looking at his basketball reference page, and it's like Phoenix and Spurs. And
Seattle
first, and then it goes, but he's just all over the place.
Well, he was Spurs most of his career.
Yeah, 93 to 01, I think, something like that. But he was kind of all over the place. He played for like 6-7 teams at the end of his career. So, also, when you think of football, I'm a Bronco fan, so I think of Jay Cutler a little bit. Jay Cutler was number 6. Baseball, Stan Musial, Steve Garvey, Ryan Howard, all good number 6s. I think of Steve Garvey just because I grew up. He lives in Southern California. Obviously played for the Dodgers and the Padres, but I went to school with his 2 kids, Olivia and Ryan Garvey. Both went to my high school, so I met Steve a couple of times. He's actually now running for state senate in Southern California.
I wasn't a Steve Garvey fan.
I wasn't. Well, I just, as a Cub fan as a kid, that Padres team that knocked them out in '84. That was gut-wrenching.
He's always a Dodger to me.
Yeah, he's always a Dodger. He played for the Dodgers for 13 years, 69 to 82. So, I mean, he's always going to be a Dodger
first.
in my...
No, Garvey at first, Lopes at second,
Bill Russell
at short, Say at third, Guerrero in left.
Who was the guy that invented the catcher throat protector that was behind the plate?
Who's on first?
Steve
Yeager.
Really?
Who was in center?
What was on third?
Monday.
Yeah, right.
Rick Monday was in right.
Yep.
Pedro Guerrero was in left.
Bill Buckner was in left.
Dusty.
Dusty was in center? No, Dusty played first too, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Anyway.
But
yeah, I always think of Steve Garvey that way. I actually worked at a restaurant called Burgers and Beer when I was 16 to 20 years old.
Man, that sounds like a cool place.
It was a good place. They have actually really good Mexican food, which was kind of weird. The owners were all Latino. But anyway, so we had a Steve Garvey signed poster in there and a signed bat right by the front door. I always remember too. In 2006, The Steelers beat the Seahawks 21-10. Hines Ward was the MVP. Rolling Stones were the halftime show, but more importantly, in 2006 was the Longhorns over USC 41-38. Sorry, Javier, as he wears his Trojans lanyard over there, punching up for us. That was potentially the greatest college football game of all time.
It was the greatest sporting event I ever attended in person. Despite Game 7s and Super Bowls, when Vince crossed the goal line at the cone, it was me to Cyber Bob. From me to Vince.
I was actually looking at that the other day. I couldn't remember who told me that. I thought it was Jack who told me that, but it was you that told me that you were right there next to him.
Me and Chancellor.
Yeah, right I was looking for that because I was watching that play the other day because it was, I don't know why.
Such a fluke. They allow you at the Rose Bowl. They say with 5 minutes to go in the game, the press box guys can go onto the field.
Right.
And there's the Rose Bowl is such a weird one level thing that you just walk down about 75 rows from the top. You don't go down an elevator.
Yeah.
So David Chancellor and I walked. Took us a long time to walk down there. We got to the field with about 3:30 left. And as soon as we went down the stairs, Dave goes, "You want to go left or go right?" And USC was going that way. I said, "Let's go right just in case I get the ball back." We went right. We went to that corner of that end zone and staked out. And sure enough, history. It was awesome.
That's why they
still get goosebumps thinking about it.
That's why you're the director.
No, it's luck. It's total luck.
He knows. He
total
knew it was coming.
But there's I don't remember there being in a place. We were talking about the other day, the Memorial Day Miracle, the energy in the building and the goosebumps. When they got the ball back, everybody in that stadium, USC fans, Texas fans alike, knew that Vince was going to go down the field. And there was just this amazing electricity in the Rose Bowl.
That was the Matt Leinart quarterback, right? At that point, Carson was already gone, as I'm remembering correctly.
He was such a, I can't use the word, but.
Leinart?
Yeah, he was so disappointing after that game because he just sold out his teammates. Because we ran right up to him because he was available, and we asked him about the game, and his first thing was, we did what we were supposed to do. We just couldn't tackle him.
They scored 38 points on offense.
We just couldn't tackle him. And it was like, what a bad teammate.
2006, also famous for the Miami Heat winning their first championship with Shaq, Dwayne Wade over the Dallas Mavericks 4-2. I remember that series. That was one of the series that made me fall in love with the Heat. That's why I'm still a Heat fan, because D. Wade scored 35 back-to-back in the last 4 games of that series to end up winning over the
Mavs led 2-0 and were up by 20 in Game 3 to go up 3-0.
Yep.
Choked. Avery Johnson coached that team.
Choked that away, sadly for Avery, but happy for me. And then Kobe also scored 81 on January 22nd, 2006. Kobe goes for 81, the second most points in any game of all time, obviously only behind Wilt Chamberlain's 100 that he scored 62 years ago now. So let's get to some...
Wait, Browns Corner.
Browns Corner now?
Right, Browns Corner, yeah. Baker wore 6 for the Browns.
Baker.
Nice.
And right now, one of my favorite players in the NFL, JOK, Jeremiah
Owusu-Koramoah.
Yeah, he wears 6. And
Does he wear 6 as a linebacker?
Yeah, he changed this
That's
year
ugly.
into it, yeah.
That's ugly. I hate single digits for backers. That's like you might be the uniform czar, but I'm the number czar.
Did we mention Dr. J?
Yeah.
Okay.
He was up there. So Justin Jefferson, if you haven't paid attention today, Justin Jefferson signed a 4-year, $140 million contract to stay with the Minnesota Vikings today. He becomes the highest paid non-quarterback of all time in the NFL. And naturally, we look at things through blue and silver colored glasses here. And my immediate thought was Jerry Jones messed up again, because now they're going to be paying the Jefferson tax.
You might not be wrong.
I mean, you look at the numbers, and they're almost identical with the production that's come from the two of them. I think of Justin Jefferson as a better player just because I think he makes the more flashy plays. He has the one-hander that he had against the Bills, that he does the things that you're just like, what the hell is that? Ceedee is just so productive in this offense. He has all the numbers, and if you look at them side by side, he has a very good argument to be paid as much or more than Justin Jefferson does, even though I think Justin Jefferson's the best the best wide receiver in football. This is going to cost the Cowboys $35.25 million a year now, just because they wanted to wait till after Justin Jefferson's done.
But didn't they know? Don't you think they thought this was what was coming?
But that's the point. What the hell are you thinking? Like, this is coming.
Did you think that Ceedee would have taken less earlier?
I think that there's now a precedent. There wasn't a precedent before. I mean, I have all the contracts right here, and
but Jerry,
what they had to beat before was AJ Brown's contract, which was $32 million a year. Now they have to beat $35 million a year. That's $3 million. That's Eric Kendricks. That's another good player on your team that you're not going to be able to sign now.
But we don't know that
Ceedee wasn't asking for 40.
That's right. Or Ceedee was waiting for Justin Jefferson to set the market. I mean, these things are nuanced. And, I think Steven said it at a press conference a couple of weeks ago. If you don't think these agents are talking to each other, trying to set the market, then you're fooling yourself. I mean, that's the way the business is going. So, did they wait too long? I don't know, but maybe there was a reason why they waited too long, because they can't get a deal done. It takes two sides to do one.
But the optics of all of it is basically you have the Eagles that have signed A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith this offseason. You have the Texans who have wrapped up Nico Collins. You have the Vikings now who've wrapped up Justin Jefferson. The Dolphins have wrapped up Jalen Waddle and looking to redo Tyreek Hill's contract. You have all of these people who are signing before is necessary, and now you have the Cowboys who are waiting until the absolute deadline to spur their action, and it doesn't make any sense financially.
Well, it does when you look at the fact that the Vikings can pay Jefferson quarterback money because they're not paying the quarterback the money. Well, in the Cowboys situation, they're paying the quarterback money. So that's the yin and the yang, and the yin and the yang and all of this. It's not apples and oranges. Everybody's dealing with a finite number of dollars, and the Vikings have a little more leeway to pay their superstar receiver because they're not paying the quarterback roughly the same amount of money. The Cowboys already have Dak under this huge contract. So, if you've got to get Micah in at some point, I mean, again, the timing of this for Ceedee is more difficult than it is for somebody like Justin Jefferson.
I know we've thought about this before, and it's not an original thought, but is there a way the Cowboys can pay all three?
Yes, but they're not going to sign anybody else. You'll have those three players and Trayvon Diggs and Zach Martin and nobody else on your roster.
Do you think they want to?
No.
Do you think the Cowboys are okay with losing one of those big three?
Yes.
Or two?
I think you have to be at this point because of how they've constructed this roster.
Well, I mean, if you're putting everything on the wall, that's certainly one of the things that goes on the chalkboard, right? It's difficult because it's going to be hard to pay all three of those guys top-tier money for their position. Is it impossible? And then, again, if you do this, it's just what you said. If you give now Ceedee, Justin Jefferson money, then that means you can say goodbye to signing guys like Eric Kendricks or any of these other younger players that at some point are going to earn the right to get paid very, very well.
All right.
Ceedee certainly earned that right, but I'm just curious to see how it all plays out. And if he holds the Cowboys to Justin Jefferson money, we might be in for a prolonged situation.
I think Ceedee can make the argument that he's the best in the league at his position.
I think he could as well.
He can make that argument. I think Micah can make the argument that he's the best in the league at his position. I don't think that Dak can make that argument. And that's maybe what Jerry's doing here.
But what Dak can't do is maybe make the argument he's the best in football, but he can make the argument that he has all the leverage and he has them bent over a barrel. So he can command whatever he wants. And if he gets to free agency, he will get exactly whatever he wants and probably more. But looking at the top tier quarterbacks, edge rushers and receivers right now, $32 million a year was A.J. Brown. It's now $35 million a year. That's going to be Justin Jefferson. Nick Bosa makes $34 million a year. Joe Burrow makes $55 million a year. You take all those and if you bump those up a little bit, that's about $130 million a year you're going to be paying to three players. You can't build a team around that.
No.
So
you can. It's just very, very difficult.
They're not going to do that. You paint yourself.
Everybody else has to be rookie, second, third year
guys. You paint yourself into such a bad box if you do that. So one of these players, it looks like to me one of these players is going to have to go. And if it was me, it would be Ceedee.
That's valid.
You can't. Trey pointed this out to us the other day. If you want to listen to the Trey Wingo, who joined the podcast on Thursday, go ahead and go to our YouTube page or go anywhere you find your podcast. Trey Wingo was on here, nice enough to give us some of his time. Anyway, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Smith, Nico Collins, DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel. 2 of those players have won a Super Bowl. One of them's Tyreek Hill, who hasn't won a Super Bowl when he got paid. So it's like you can't build a roster around a receiver.
Receivers don't win Super Bowls.
Exactly. So paying Ceedee Lamb $35 million, which is probably going to be the going rate now, at least equaling Justin Jefferson's contract, seems out of the question to me.
Well, to your point, I mean, all you have to do is look at the Green Bay Packers and how they did it with literally a collection of young, not established receivers. And although they weren't great at the beginning of the year, they were pretty darn good at the end. Again, this is a broader conversation for people in power, that they're having these conversations all the time. And you're right. It may come down to Ceedee or Micah and not both, but I just don't know where they stand in terms of, their global thinking on all this.
And I mean, you guys are going to tell me I'm crazy, but I don't think it's out of the question. Everybody says, oh, you can't win without one of the top tier quarterbacks. Tampa went just as far as the Cowboys did, or further last year, with Baker Mayfield on a 1-year, $6 million deal. You can find a way, right? They have Trey Lance on their roster, and it's still the jury, I think, is still out on him.
100%.
As high as
that's 100% valid.
I'll disagree with you guys on that one. I think Trey Lance is a bum.
Well, I mean, the guy had the arm talent and the physical tools to be drafted in the top 5.
Yes.
So I think the jury's still out on him.
The jury is still out, but he's not ready to play or take over a team.
I think that you can pay either CD or Dak. If you're going to pay CD, I don't think you can afford to pay Dak $55 million because you're paying a top-tier receiver $35 and you have so many other spots on your roster.
I'd rather have CD.
If you're going to pay Dak, I don't think you need to pay a top-tier receiver because a top-tier quarterback, which you would be paying him to be, is supposed to elevate those people around him. Just because is it chicken or the egg? Is Dak making CD or CD making Dak? I think it's a little bit of both at this point. But Dak has always had a top tier receiver on his roster.
At Texas A&M, was it Johnny Manziel or was it Mike Evans?
Exactly.
Me and David Chancellor used to have that argument.
Amari Cooper,
but it was both.
Amari,
if we're being honest,
Dez, CD. He's always had a top tier receiver on his roster. Can he do this without one? We might have to find out sooner rather than later because I don't think you just can't pay 35, 35, and 55 and have a decent roster around you. That's just not going to happen. So
I think that's fair.
But it goes to the larger point of nobody understands what the Cowboys are actually doing here with their roster.
They know what they're doing.
They're not telling anybody.
They're just not telling anybody. Yeah, they know what they're doing. And again, some of this is, you take this year by year. You gave Dak the money, and Dak certainly earned the right to get paid like a top-tier quarterback. But now what do you do going forward? And for every dollar that Dak makes, that means it's somebody else that's not making it. And so you're going to have this push and pull literally every year.
But that goes to an even further point of why not do the deals, create yourself the cap room, because if you do the deal now with Dak, his cap number will lower from $55 million, which means you can help your roster now. It seems like what they're doing is they're being like, we've put all these void years onto all these contracts to try and lower cap numbers for the past 5 years, trying to win a Super Bowl. We didn't get our Super Bowl, and now we're going to pay the piper with no more void years. And we're just like, you know what? This is what our roster is. This might be the year that we have to reconstruct these deals and we have to reset our roster, our cap.
I think that's what they're doing.
That's what it seems like, at least.
And I think at the end of the day, they'd rather not. But I think at the end of the day, they're prepared to lose any of those guys. They're prepared to lose Micah if they had to. They're prepared to lose, not all of them, but they're prepared to lose one or two of these guys if that's what it comes down to.
I think they're prepared to lose one of the offensive guys. I don't think they're ever going to let Micah walk out the door.
Remember, though, there was those conspiracy theories this offseason about, where the Cowboys planning all that negative stuff about Micah in the offseason because, the culture stuff, and they're a little annoyed with his podcast and his mouth. And
well, he's definitely got some things going on outside of football. He's got a career outside of football that he's cultivating currently.
Yeah, and he's got a brand that he's working on, but why isn't he on the field? last week when he
that
said
goes-
he allegedly, I mean, I don't know for sure. I mean, it was reported that he was going to be there last week. And then he's been in the building, so I don't want to make it sound like he's not going in, getting the books, doing all those kinds of things. But time on task on the field is something that is very precious this time of year, because this is where young players learn how to play with guys that are already established in the league. Conversely, guys like Micah are learning how to play with other guys that he's playing with for the first time. Eric Kendricks said as much the other day. This is an important time for me because everybody plays differently. And so my time on the field with these guys for the first time is super important. So, I think Mike McCarthy kind of alluded to that publicly. It's just very, very odd if you want to be one of those guys that's paid the full. What are you doing that makes a team want to pay you the full if you're not doing these things now when you're 2 years away from having your contract redone? Or at least 1 year away, but for sure 2 years.
This is why you're a professional, Chuck. That's a perfect segue into the next topic. Mandatory minicamps starting this week. Are Micah and Ceedee going to show up? And is it important that they do? You were there on Thursday. You talked to the guys in the locker room. You saw kind of it looked like, from afar at least, that Mike McCarthy was not very pleased.
No, I think there was a sense that he was irritated and agitated, and that why would he have to get up here this time of year? It is voluntary, so there is that. However, if you don't have your best players at these practices, then guess what? The tempo is going to be different. When Dak is on the field, things are humming, they're clicking. When he had 3 on there, when he had 1 on the field, that looked like a well-oiled machine between guys that had time on task. If Dak wasn't there, if Dak was like, well, it's the offseason, I don't need to be here, those practices would have had a completely different tempo, at least according to my eyes, based on, Cooper Rush trying to do the same cadence as Dak, and also Trey Lance, and how Trey Lance moves at a different pace than Dak does. I mean, there's all kinds of things at the eye test where you can see why Dak is clearly the number 1 quarterback, as he's proven anyway, but even in a practice setting. So, Micah not being there, I think that says a lot. And
so you think it's more of a big
maybe
deal
you have to
than-
read between the lines on some of this stuff, but I think it might be what he thinks is in his best interest right now. I just don't know that truly it really is.
I think CD will not be there. I think Micah will be there.
And Chuck, you think it's something, not nothing, that they're not there because of the quality of reps and practice that they will have.
No, I think I need to make this clear. I 100% understand why CD's not there.
100%.
You don't want to get hurt on a practice field that's voluntary when you're going up for your first huge contract renewal. So CD has earned the right to put the voluntary in voluntary, which is I volunteer not to show up. So I'm sure he's still doing his studying and doing all those other things too. Micah is a year removed away from that. So my guess would be, and again, this is totally a guess, CD will not be there this week. Micah should be there, but I'm 50-50 on whether or not he shows up.
Do you think that speaks to his leadership or lack thereof?
I think, yes, in some ways, but I don't know that he necessarily, because he said that he wants to be a better leader. He wants to grow as a teammate for others in the room. But if you're not there and if you're not practicing what you preach, then what's the issue here? So
I think he's missing a chance here to solidify himself like Dak had. Dak, if not our boy from Steele High School,
Terrence.
Terrence
Steele.
Those are probably the 2 most well-respected players on the roster for their work ethic and for being there every single day. First one there, last one to leave. Micah's not that guy. If he was, I think that contract extension would come quite more easily. And I think he has the respect of his teammates because he's great. But you could go much further with that, and it's just immaturity on his part. He's just young.
Yeah, I don't know what the motivation is, and there's no question that you can guarantee week 1, Micah Parsons will be available. He'll be full speed. He'll be ready to go. He'll be amazing. But this time on the field right now is very, very important. Again, it's maybe not so much for Micah. It's the guys around him, especially the younger guys.
That's just something he doesn't get yet because he's young.
I mean, I find it hard to believe that DeMarcus Ware or DeMarcus Lawrence would have done that. You know, the two guys that are obviously well known for their work ethic, well known for the leader that they are on the defense. I find it very hard to believe that DeMarcus Ware of all people would have missed, and that's the mantle that Micah's carrying.
He's got some knucklehead in him. There's no question.
I think it's just I think he's a businessman and he's working his business, and so if it doesn't necessarily align 100%, the football side, or being on the field, I should say. I think that's where we're at. I think the business of football has creeped into the mind of Micah Parsons at this time.
Kind of like young Shaq. Young Shaq, when Kobe was always mad at Shaq because he wouldn't put in the time in the offseason. He was always overweight. Shaq was making movies and rap albums.
Cyber Bob in the big chair. What do we got?
I hate to mess up the flow, but going back to Larry Allen.
Yeah. We're just about to get to Larry Allen. So
I'm
good
sorry.
segue.
That's all right.
Good
Okay,
segue. Good segue.
good.
Yeah, go ahead.
A guy named Victor Wembanyama has posted a comment on our podcast here. It says, "Rest in peace, Larry Allen, GOAT, offensive lineman in Cowboys history. Only 52, so young."
Yeah, that's true. Very sad.
Let's get to Larry Allen right now. I think I was over in the other room and I just saw on my phone because I have Adam Schefter's tweet notifications on that Larry Allen dies at 52, and I was like, "What?" Like 52 years old. It didn't. I think like that shocked me more than like Bill Walton last week, just because Bill Walton's 71. You look at the sheer age of these guys, and someone dying at 52 years old, even as big as Larry Allen is, because he's a larger than life person, actually physically and his personality, but it hits you, man. It hits you when somebody dies suddenly while they're on vacation, and it's just like, wow.
Awful. Largest, strongest human being, maybe in the history of the NFL. Bench press 700 pounds. Ran right at 5'1", 40 at 325 pounds. The famous play his rookie year when he runs down
The linebacker from the Saints.
Yeah, on a what should have been a pick six. The video of him bench pressing 700 pounds and then Rocket Ismail diving onto the bench, onto his lap while he's still got the weight in his hands. Crazy.
That's stupid. I saw that a little earlier because obviously that's what happens.
I remember
that's the good part of social media is everyone can kind of share their thoughts and memories of people who die instantly. I saw that because I'm not old enough to remember that in my conscious lifetime. Who dives on somebody when they have 700 pounds over top of them? Like,
I remember for the giant hooter that he always had in his lip. He had always had a massive dip. Never really talked to us much in the locker room because he was painfully shy. But his Hall of Fame speech, he thanked his wife, and I think her name was Janelle. I forget her name. But he said, I want to thank my wife, Janelle. On our first date, she cooked me dinner. She made me 2 whole chickens, French fries, and a 40-ounce.
Good Lord.
And he said, and I knew right then that she would be my wife.
And he got to her first before we could get to her.
Chuck, favorite Larry Allen story or memory?
Well, on that team, which obviously was replete with superstars, he was one guy that you didn't really get to know very much because he was so anti-media. And, that's okay. There were plenty of other talkers on the team, but just the sheer respect that guy had in his locker room and around the league and then within the organization too, always available, always played. You never had to worry about that guy on your team. I mean, just literally larger than life for all of the physical attributes. And as we lead into the Tyler Smith soundbite, I hadn't honestly thought about Larry Allen in a long time. And a reporter in the scrum the other day mentioned to Tyler Smith that management had said, hey, they're comparing you to a young Larry Allen. And so he had an initial response to it, which was very nice. But then another reporter asked him, so what do you know about Larry Allen? And all of a sudden it was Tyler Smith, like, Wikipedia Junior.
I mean, it's huge for sure. Obviously, just knowing Larry and everything he did, how great he was. It's just my mission to be the best me I can be, be the best Tyler Smith I can be every single day. Just improve, stay hungry, never lose that passion, just continue to get better.
What do you know about Larry?
Man, I know a little bit. Sonoma State, he almost died of meningitis when he was a kid. He's very tough. Bro, just a dog. I've seen the tape. Obviously, extremely athletic. Famous for the chase down block against the Saints. One of the best pulling guards probably to ever play in the NFL. Because not many people is doing people like that anymore.
Wikipedia Junior, I checked.
Yeah.
I mean, just like boom, 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 Sonoma State. It's like, yeah, that's right. He did go to Sonoma State. I'm sitting there thinking like, geez, don't try to trick Tyler Smith on something. He's going to let you know. But, just weird how sometimes worlds collide, and then all of a sudden, 3 days later, we're having this conversation and then airing that soundbite. I was thinking last night, I really didn't have a place for any of the Tyler Smith sound that we got over on Thursday. And I was thinking, I'm going to run that bite about Larry Allen and just, talk about how great a player Tyler is in his own right. And then now, we're going to be running that soundbite today for different reasons.
Yeah, in a different
And
context.
here's the thing
It's
about
just
Larry
crazy.
Allen.
That's so
is.
creepy. You texted me that earlier, and I was like, wow, that's a coincidence, but it's a sad coincidence.
Larry Allen is not going to be remembered as one of the top 5 greatest Cowboys of all time, but he was. Because you have Roger, and you have Emmett, and you have Drew, and you have the triplets with Aikman and Irvin, and you have Bob Lilly, and Randy White, and all of these great Cowboys that are in the Hall of Fame already.
Rod Woodson.
And he is too. Who?
Rod Woodson.
Yeah. Darren Woodson.
Darren Woodson.
But statistically, Pro Bowl-wise, the best to ever play his position, I mean, Roger Staubach wasn't the greatest to ever play his position, but he's the greatest Cowboy. Larry Allen was the greatest guard to ever play in the NFL. And his Pro Bowls and his pancakes, dirt blocks is what he called them, putting people in the dirt. The guy was as dominant a football player that has ever lived and is probably a top 5 Cowboy of all time. We forget it because of the position he played.
Well said.
Bob, any other ones for now?
No, we're good.
I think we're going to end on that instead. We're going to get to Spurs stuff on Thursday, and we'll get to more Cowboys stuff on Thursday as well. But I can't imagine ending it on a better note than talking about the great Larry Allen, dead way too soon at 52 years old. So rest in peace, and obviously thoughts and prayers go to his family. And I don't even know if they're still on vacation, but the fact that he passed away on vacation really sucks.
Yeah.
That's all we got for you today on the Sneakers Cleats podcast on this Monday. We are going to have Michelle Beadle at some point over the next couple of weeks, so we'll let you know on social when that happens and when you can tune in for that. But remember to download, rate, review, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, tell a friend, tell an enemy. We will be back on Thursday with some more Spurs and Cowboys stuff. Until then, everyone have a good week.